But God shows his love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Romans 5:8. Now, let me give you a little testimony. Now, before I started specifically walking with Christ, right? Now, he's always been a presence in my heart and in my mind and in my spirit and all those things, but I was still having to be in control of things, right? I was still doing the things I knew I shouldn't do. I was still not listening to the divine downloads that he was putting into my heart, my mind, my spirit, my soul. I was still leaning into the hurts and the trauma and the toxicity and all of those things. I was still doing things to self-medicate in order to avoid truly healing. Now, the reason I say that is because God was with me the entire time, y'all. He was with me the entire time. He didn't leave my side. He wasn't like, oh, well, another lost soul. She's not listening to what I say. No, you, the way that I truly feel and understand unconditional love is through Christ, right? Because Christ is the only one who has never left my side, despite what I said, despite what I did, despite what idols I might have had, despite what I felt in my spirit, despite my actions, the things that I were putting into my body and all of these things. He died for me. Now, let's qualify this, right? Because he didn't just die for me. I'm not the end all be all. He died for you too. And so sometimes I feel like when we're in environments or of trauma and toxicity and all of those things, and we integrate it into our being and feel like that's who we are truly, that's what we're deserving of, and all those things, we're getting out of the Christ bubble, just personally, right? We're choosing to step outside of the Christ bubble on our own, even though he's like, hey, I'm right here, I can help, let me help, right? And we're like, nah, I got this, no worries, pop a pill, drink alcohol, or sex it away, or whatever it is that you do to try to release or run away from your pain. Crack a joke about it or something like that in order to try to make it seem smaller than what it actually is in your spirit and in your soul. Try to avoid the tears from falling down your face and all of those things. But listen here, the reason why we do a lot of those things, or I'll speak in I statements, the reason why I did a lot of those things is because I was buried up to my neck in shame and guilt and all of those things. And I started to believe the enemy's lies, that I was deserving of all the punishments that were coming my way. And instead of trying to actually see it from a spiritual perspective or learning the lessons and applying these things in my life, or trying to grow, trying to ascend, trying to build my relationship with Christ, I ran away. And the more I ran, the darker it got. And then I couldn't understand that. Why was my entire existence in despair and darkness and all of these things? Why was I so angry? Why was I so afraid all the time? Why did I feel I deserved every single negative thing that came my way, but let one positive thing come my way? I felt, no, thank you. I don't deserve it. Right? Now, the reason I say all this, because maybe that's a part of your story. Maybe that is your story too, right? But the entire time we have to understand, or even if we start to have that seed planted in your spirit right now, that Christ died for your sins. So the things that you're still carrying shame for, the trauma that you've decided to put on your back, and what I receive is turned into your cape of like, oh, I'm super trauma. You see the S on the chest. Well, it's a T on the chest, right? Super trauma. This is what I do. I'm a survivor. And then meanwhile, continuing to enter into spaces that we know will exacerbate the trauma and bring even more darkness into our world. So the bottom line is, at what point do we decide to turn to Christ? At what point do we recognize the Christ bubble that resides next to us, that we've been consistently running from, and decide to actually step into it? So that way we can begin to actually heal. And I'm not saying that you're going to have to do it on your own. Go to therapy, read the books, take the classes, surround yourself with in a new environment. And even if you can't get into a new environment, because let's just be real, things are expensive. The way that you heal, or I statements, the way that I healed within the same environments was to start recognizing the trauma patterns, start recognizing the toxic patterns. And instead of blaming myself anytime there was any type of accident, mistake, or whatever it is, instead of having that internal dialogue going instantly to, you're dumb, you're an idiot, you're this, you're the B word, you're all of these things that were introduced into my psyche and my spirit through youth, through the words of other people, allowing God to actually flip that narrative into what he thinks of me. And that's how I began to heal. That doesn't mean that the environment around you is going to start changing until you begin to change. That's how the environment shifts, because you're going to be able to see it from a new perspective. You're going to be able to engage with it from a different perspective. Christ died for you, for you. So what are you going to do about it? This isn't to shame you. This isn't to blame you, but it's to remind you that there is an alternative. And if you're listening to me, and if you've been following along with every single day, the morning motivation, the evening encouragement, and all those things, you know that you want more. Your spirit is calling out for more. Your spirit is calling for a better and stronger relationship with Christ. And this is how you start to do it. Take the steps towards healing. You deserve it. You are worthy. Do not continue to carry that shame that he died on the cross to alleviate. Start making different decisions. Start watering the seeds that are implanted into your spirit. Maybe that means to start healing. Maybe that means to start taking classes. Maybe that means to get into a different friend group. Maybe that means to create a little bit of distance and space from the people who continue to exacerbate the pain in your world, right? To create distance and space from the people who speak defeat over you, who continue to drag you into the darkness even when you're trying to run towards the light. Now, I'm not saying you got to cut people off, but what I'm saying is healing does lend light to darkness. And that is how you'll be able to start seeing things from a new perspective. That's how you'll be able to start ascending. And then when opportunity presents itself, and if it is in God's will, you will find yourself in a whole new environment, a whole new world, a whole new timeline. And that, because that is your truth. If you feel it in your spirit, if this resonates with you, start taking the steps now. And if you're already taking the steps, make sure you breathe into those steps to see if it's a time to expand. See if it's a time to go in a different direction. See if there's something new that you haven't been addressing and you're still running from. Check yourself to see if you are in a state of self-medication, and get the proper help. Do not allow yourself to continue to be tormented by your trauma, blame, and shame. This is a new day. Let us rejoice in it and be glad. He died for you and me. So, brother, sister, continue to grow, continue to go, heal. That's my testimony, and that's my word for you. But it's your life.